from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who at the time of recording this finally found his like lights that go in RGB order. No IV, but we got RGB. And to me, like you say, who's that guy that wrote Moby Dick? Wonder what he was like. What about the guy that wrote Don Quixote? Did they ever have something they chased after? And what would make someone make a sleep podcast? What do they chase after? I mean, besides their own tail. Again, I can't even remember if I have an archetypal or a vestigial tail that I chase around. And every once in a while, somebody taps me on my shoulder, including my dog. She says, you don't have it. By the way, did you know you don't have a tail? So my dog, there's never been publicized before, but dogs can shrug their shoulders. I guess it's basically with a look versus an actual shrug of their shoulders. But she's like, you don't have a tail. No, but I got to chase it right now. Weren't you talking about something else? Oh, chasing windmills, chasing sea mammals. Or in my case, trying to find lights that go in Roy G. Biv order. And tonight we have a bedtime story that's Roy G. Biv related. So I'm glad you're here. And here in 2025, I'm trying to make the best possible podcast to put you to sleep. So if you're new, welcome. This isn't a podcast that puts you to sleep directly. It keeps you company and attempts to ease things in the deep, dark night by distraction and to make your life better just by distraction and friendly meandering tales. Now, it doesn't work for everybody, but give it a few tries and see how it goes. I really hope it can help you out. If at some point you know Sleep With Me is not for you, we have a website set up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you, that has other sleepy stuff on there. But I'm glad you're here, and we do this together with the show. I make the podcast that puts you to sleep, right? But we do it together. Collectively, I'm not able to do this alone. And so the people that support the show directly, support the sponsors, or just spread the word about the podcast and let other people know about it, enable and empower me to put you to sleep, but your actions also affect so many other people in a positive way. So I'm glad to be here to do that. And thank you for making it possible for me to put you to sleep. And here's a couple of the ways, if you say, well, how do I? Here's a couple of ways we're able to do it for you twice a week. Only if you're a regular listener, by the way. Thanks. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Helix Sleep. And I do not know what you're waiting for. If you listen to the show, I really feel like I should hear from almost every single listener. Have you taken that Helix Sleep quiz, and which mattress did you get matched with? Because it's going to fit you and your sleep needs, just like my Helix fits mine. I love my Helix mattress. When I took the quiz a long, long time ago, wonderful long relationship I've had with my Helix. When I took that quiz, I wanted something where I could sleep on my side, I could sleep on my stomach. I don't want to get hot and stuffy. I got matched with the Helix Dusk. I picked the Helix Dusk Luxe. And night after night, that is what allows me to be here for you, is the good rest I get in my Helix mattress. So I'm happy with my Helix. Which Helix are you going to be happy with, right? Like, what are you sleeping in right now? Is it made for you and how you sleep? Did you and your partner take a quiz, like the Helix quiz, together and say, yeah, that's the one for us? Because you could do that right now with the Helix quiz. And then the mattress is going to come straight to your door, shipped free of charge, ready to go. And you could start your long-term relationship with a mattress that's there for you and how you sleep, what you prefer. Think about how much better you're going to be sleeping in that situation. And Helix always has a great deal. So get over there. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. Before we get to the rest of the podcast here, I wanted to ask you a question. Like, do you have a favorite episode of the show, a favorite character, a favorite style of the show? Like, can you name characters in the show? It's not important if you can't. That's another sign you might be a super listener of the podcast. You're a super listener. That's pretty cool because you're an exclusive group out of like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. There's only about 20,000 super listeners. And the thing is, over the next few months, we need 1,500. We need you and about 1,500 super listeners to support the show back so we can keep making this podcast and be here. Because this is a time when more than ever, more and more people need the show. Paradoxically, that's when it gets most difficult to keep the show going. Like the show, it's like you got to choose or think about, do you want your sleep podcast to just get by? Is that the goal of Sleep With Me? My goal is not for you to just get by, for your life to be tolerable. My job's to bring you comfort so your life can be better tomorrow, that you can be out there flourishing. But even if it's more manageable, think about if you have the same thing for your sleep podcast, if you're a super listener. But you could be the reason the show's here next year, the year after that, the year after that. We can head into this unknown together, right? Supporting other people that are super listeners like you and those other people going through stuff. And we could keep making whatever brought you here, whatever puts a smile on your face or helps you drift off. And you could do that, but don't wait. Because if you're hearing me and listening, you're the one person I'm talking to. I've been doing this long enough that it's really like I have to get one person at a time. So you're the one person right now. I need you. Can you do it? Just sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes too. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. And don't forget, the most comfortable way to listen to Sleep With Me is with sleep phones. You can get Sleep With Me merch, Sleep With Me branded sleep phones at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. And use Sleep With Me at checkout to get $5 off your order. The only way you can get the Sleep With Me merch editions is sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. Thanks, everybody. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing? Trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it the bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever is keeping you awake. It could be thoughts, things you're thinking about. Thoughts about the past, the present, the future. So thinking thoughts, feelings, anything you're coming up for you physically. or emotionally. So physical sensations, changes in time, temperature, routine, work schedule, travel, guests, seasons, whatever it is. You could be going through something or getting over something or in the middle of something, or you could be baffled or whatever it is. The only reason I run through some of that stuff is so you know you're not alone. We are in this together. Separate but together is the way this podcast works, which is different. Together, separateness together. I guess that's what it is, or togetherness separately. It's a little bit of both. Because what do I mean by any of that, or why is it important to point out? Well, you found your way to this show, right? Maybe it's because you have trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep, but waking up. Maybe you got a stressful day. Whatever it is, like, I've dealt with pretty much all of those, and I know how it feels for me. I know how it feels for me when I'm in a house full of people, when I'm sharing a room with somebody, and when I'm alone by myself. And I know it never feels great, right? And I don't know if that's what it's like for you. I don't know if I can relate to how it feels for you, but the beauty of this podcast is there's enough people listening right now that somewhere in the world there's somebody that can relate exactly to where you're at, or pretty closely to where you're at. And they're a regular listener to the show, and they're thinking about you and what you're dealing with because they've been there. And just like this show doesn't fix anything, it doesn't really make anything go away. They're just glad you're here because they say, man, I've been there and I know what it's like for me. So I hope this podcast can just help you out to ease things in the deep, dark night, to give you some comfort like it has for me. So they're thinking of you in this positive way, and I'm not kidding. This is one of the most important parts about the show. And right, like the show does not work for everybody. Not everybody likes me or the podcast, but they hope this podcast is a fit for you, right? That you say, oh, after the third try, I realized I had been looking for something like this. This show is very different. I didn't know there'd be something like this out there. And then that one day you could be that welcoming presence, because people can feel it. People can feel it when you're putting that, like, just a mild smile on your face and saying, yeah, I'm glad you're here. Like, this is a weird one. This podcast is strange, but I hope it helps you like it helped me, because I can see you hurting out there. And I know what it feels like to hurt like that. So I'm glad you're here. So are a bunch of other people. Not only that, like, the reason I'm glad and other people are glad you're here is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a bedtime where you could get the rest you need so your life is more manageable, so that you could be out there living your life tomorrow, not tired or not dreading, tomorrow night or whatever, that your life is more manageable. Ideally, that you could be out there flourishing, which means that not only is your world a better place, our world's a better place. We need you in it. We need you rest. We want that for you. I think the world's a better place with you flourishing in it. So those are the important things about the show. The way it works is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents, which means I go off topic, I get mixed up, I forget what I was talking about, then I go back to what I was talking about, then I repeat myself, and a lot of stuff like that, and a lot of filler words, pregnant pauses, utterances. So, like, those weren't even on purpose, but that's what it is, because I'm just here to meander and keep you company. And it does take some getting used to. I said it earlier, I'll say it again, because it's okay if you don't like me or the show. It's okay it's very normal, like, to be skeptical or doubtful. You are looking for something to help you fall asleep. Maybe you searched for the show. Maybe somebody recommended it. Maybe you heard about it somewhere. and you have an idea of what would be a sleep podcast, right? And this is not sounding like it. On top of that, if you're anything like me, you tried tons of other stuff, probably a lot of stuff you paid for to help you fall asleep. And none of that worked regularly. It only worked intermittently. For me, it would be like 2 nights, and then it wouldn't work again. So coming to the show and then hearing me ramble about nothing and say, wait, like even what I'm going to say, get in more into, of course you're skeptical or doubtful. Of course you're like, what is this dude going on about? I thought this was a sleep podcast. But just see how it goes, because most regular listeners say, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries for me to get used to the show, the structure of the show. And then I realized, I didn't realize it was never supposed to make any sense. Now I get that. I don't get it, and now I get that. So just give it a few tries and see how it goes. If you already know it's a no, that's okay, because Sleep With Me is here to help you find something else. sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. It has other sleep podcasts out there, and then you could find something that works for you. If this show doesn't work for you, I want you to find something that will work for you. Because everything I said, I mean, I'd love it if it works for you and we get to hang and I get to talk to you about goofy stuff tonight. Roy G. Biv, or not Roy G. Biv is just whatever that is, words that stand for something. So, so just see how it goes. But yeah, if it's a no, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. What else do you need to know? This is a podcast you just kind of barely listen to, which I kind of alluded to already. It's almost like background noise that you could listen to, or a TV on in the other room, or something streaming under your pillow, or music on next door that's not bad, or whatever it is, like a sports on at a distance, on the radio. This is a show you could just barely listen to in an out of focus or sand through your hands type way. And that also takes some getting used to. It's a podcast you don't listen to. Even most sleep audios that I've used in the past, that's one of the things. They were either not engaging enough or too engaging. Like I had to go on a journey or pay attention or visualize something. And I know that works for people. I'm not being negative. I just said, for me, it didn't work. And for me, that's stuff that was too passive. I would want to listen to it, even and then I'd be in the forest making up my own story, but then it would tie back to whatever was keeping me awake. And that's the other thing is there was already a story going on in my head of whatever it is that was keeping me awake or related to that or keeping me from sleeping. So this is a podcast you could just barely listen to. That's a mild distraction, and it doesn't put you to sleep. This podcast is not meant to put you to sleep. It's meant to keep you company while you fall asleep. There is no pressure to fall asleep with this show. That's why I'm here over an hour. That's why we have so many episodes in our archives, and we have so many different styles of shows that come out on a regular basis. So you say, okay, I don't got to worry about it. The show's over an hour. Okay, cool. Or I could queue up episode after episode. Yeah, there's no pressure to fall asleep. I'm not here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company. And then you wake up tomorrow. You say, holy cow. I mean, that's the only thing that ever worked for me anyway, right? Is not trying to, I've been trying to fall asleep my whole life. And it's only and I can't directly not try to fall asleep. And so this podcast kind of helps with that. I'm just here to be your boar friend, your boar bay, your boar sib, your boar cuz, your boar bee, your neighbor, your boorman, your boars, your Boris Borloff, your, what else? I don't even know. Boar cuz, boar sib, boar bruh, your best boyfriend forever. And to keep you company while you fall asleep. Just like if I was a friend and you called me, I'll be there talking about nothing. So that's a couple things to know. The other thing that throws people off when they're new, and we don't change the structure of the show very, very often. We've been doing this a long time, right? So the structure of the show is intentional. But if you become a regular listener, it's also, you can, there's a couple different ways you could adapt how you listen. But most people listen to this ad-supported version linearly, either the full episode or with a timer, like a sleep timer for 45 or 60 minutes, 30 minutes. But you can adapt how you listen. So I'm going to run through that and why we structure the way we show, just so if you're already skeptical or doubtful or you're not liking this, it can at least meet you where you are. So the show starts off with a greeting, which is important, so you feel seen and welcomed in. Maybe I say something silly, so you get the sense, oh, okay, I could check that show out. Okay, then there's a support, so that paying for the podcast is optional. Most people would prefer to support the show by just listening to the sponsors and then not having to worry about it. If you want something ad-free, you get that on Sleep With Me Plus, or you could get it through our referral program. So then after the support is a long, meandering intro. It's totally separate from the support. It's a show within a show. We're about 12 minutes into it, I think. And it's anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes long, where I explain what the podcast is in an incredibly inefficient way that follows a similar structure every time, but is new every time. And the reason for that is, one, like I said earlier, I needed something and I wanted to make something that was kind of engaging and had variety, but also felt familiar. So it felt like a friend or friendly, but I didn't know what my friend was going to talk about exactly. So it'd have a sense of newness, too, and surprise, but, boring, dull surprises. So that's why the intro goes on and on and on and is different every time, but it also serves this other important purpose. I'd love to serve some porpoises, like as a helper, not serve them, you know what I'm saying? Like, porpoises, can I make a podcast for you? But the purpose of the intro is also to ease you into bedtime, not to put you to sleep. The intro is about 15 to 20 minutes long for your wind down, for a buffer between wake time and drifting off time. So you could listen while you're getting ready for bed, you're in bed getting comfortable, or you're doing some other chill wind down activity. And that's just what's been shown to work. It works for me most of the time personally. If you don't want a show with intros, we have Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me, which is just the stories. So you could check that out there. But that's why the intro goes on and on and on to ease you into bedtime. Like this version of the podcast is not, if you listen all night, or you listen episode after episode after episode, you're definitely better off like investing in Sleep With Me Plus or whatever. Because most people, they wind down during the intro, and then later on they'll fall asleep during the story. And it does not mean that there's a right or wrong way to listen. It's just we structure the show so it can be adaptable, but also like with in mind that like whatever 60 or I don't know. It's not that important, but I think you get my drift. Like it's kind of modular. It's just a benefit to most people that are hurting in the way we hurt in the deep dark night as we can. Okay, so that after the intro is support, then tonight will be our bedtime story. It'll be about 45, 50 minutes long. And it'll be a tale about a boy named Teddy and his journey on the Roy G. Biff's, discoveries in being Roy G. Biv, as well as like a little bit of a personal tangent at the beginning about learning about Roy G. Biv and the magic of mixing paint colors and stuff. So, I guess that's it. I'm really glad you're here. I work hard. So do a team of people work hard on this show, which I guess is like pretty, to make it sound free and easy, right? And to help out, so I'm really glad you're here. If you're new or you're a regular listener or you're coming back or whatever it is, I really hope we can help you fall asleep. Thank you again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to do it for you twice a week. All right, everybody, it is time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Mint Mobile. And whether you say data or data, now my house, you might say we use both because my daughter got started on Mint Mobile back in 2020. But Scoots here, I've been with one of the big three carriers, but that is going to change because I was like, what am I thinking? Paying so much money for data every single month. I need something more affordable. And working with Mint Mobile, I know about their premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. So Scoots is moving his service from one of the big three carriers over to Mint Mobile. I wonder if you'll join me because I'm going to say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans. And those bills, when I get the text, I say, wait a second, what? And then I usually get a second text with a different amount. I don't know if those are unexpected overages, but Mint Mobile is here for all of us. All plans come with high-speed data or data. Unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts and ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. Join me, won't you? I'm making the move to Mint Mobile. No matter how you say it, don't overpay for it. Shop data plans at mintmobile.com/sleepwithme. That's mintmobile.com/sleepwithme. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required. Equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome to a Tales Never Told, a trending Tuesday style episode where I try to pick I use a randomizer for our meander points, right? And tonight's tale never told, tale rarely told, or tale lullingly told, is about Roy G. Biv, which is what is that? That's a set of letters that make a word that stands for something else. And there's a lot of words in my head, but none of them are correct of what that is. It's not an enneagram or an anagram, I don't believe, or whatever that morphism or whatever. But this is a tale about Roy G. Biv. Now, there is some history of Roy G. Biv and prisms and things like that. But, and again, I don't know if this is a generational thing, but at some point, and maybe this is a generational thing where you say, Generation X, man, what's up with you guys? And I do hear that a lot. And it's interesting. It gets to come in both directions, which is really, really good. And I'm in acceptance. We're quite the generation. And I don't want to point fingers, right? But I do want to have some touchstones. So when I was learning, which was a challenge for anyone trying to teach me, there was a few things were important to learn, at least where the schools I went to. It was interesting because, one was phonics, which I don't know. We'll skip over that. Clouds, which we've covered in 2 or 3 episodes. For some reason, the curriculum in the 1980s into the 1990s was these kids need to know the names of clouds. And I'm not just talking about descriptive language to use in poetry. These children need technical knowledge of clouds. That was one thing. There was a couple other ones that I was always looking back, I say, well, that's interesting. Now, this isn't to say it's entirely useless to know the difference. Well, I don't know the difference between an alto nimbus and I wouldn't know my alto nimbus from my alto cumulus. And you could bet I'm serious about that. I could use it as a joke. And I do have a cloud finder or cloud namer that I got from my mom, another treasured object of mine, or my mom and my dad. It's just a little thing. It's like a piece of paper that with two circles, and you say, oh, there's the cloud. That's the name of it. So that part of my education never took. There was I can't remember the other ones, but well, one of them is the subject of this episode, or leads to the subject of this episode, which was Roy G. Biv. There was probably a time we got to play with prisms, though I'm only guessing that mine was taken away because of when I tried to maybe concentrate the light or whatever. And I think then they had like plastic prisms, like you could hold up to a window, and then glass prisms. And if you listen to that show in the last 2 years, I don't think I talked about this. So I did find technically not a Hello Kitty. It looked like it's plastic. It looks like it's cut glass. And it's a look-alike Hello Kitty finial, which, I mean, they didn't license Hello Kitty, but it bears a striking resemblance to Hello Kitty. And it's a finial to go on the top of a lamp. And it's made from cut plastic to look like cut glass, which means it does not have any prism properties. But at some point in my education, they were like, you got to learn Roy G. Biv, I don't know what it's called, the color spectrum, I'm going to call it. And we're going to test you on this. And it wasn't bad. Well, okay, a couple things. Oh, also, yeah, this was an important part of my, I don't know, I don't think Henry James or Thomas Hardy or any of them wrote about this portrait of, or any of the people that wrote about the artist as a young person or whatever, because, but okay, so they covered when light goes through a prism, when sunlight goes through a prism, I'm paraphrasing from memory, you get a rainbow. Also happens also when leprechauns are present and hiding. I don't know if it's hiding their gold, something related to leprechauns must loathe rainbows, right? In rain, like, do you think when it rains, the leprechauns are like, there's a famous set of mythology. Let me just explain it. Like that, there's leprechauns, which are like elvish beings, like similar to elvish beings, like an elf and a dwarf, more dwarven than elvish, I guess. And that's not meant in an insulting way. They're just not as pretty as elves. I mean, I'm sure there's pretty leprechauns out there. But that somewhere at the end of a rainbow, the leprechaun, that's where the leprechauns keep their gold. I believe, because most people are right-handed, that it's always at the right side of the rainbow. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's on the left side. Maybe that's just my own, because everybody's always looking to the right. I say, what about the left side? But I think, like, in the right-handed world, the rainbow starts on the left, ends on the right. The gold is on the right. And so it just makes me think, how come, like, if this is true, I mean, if it was true, one, it would have to be some sort of, the rainbow would have to create some sort of portal, I guess, because otherwise there's like leprechauns everywhere and they're hiding their gold. And I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, and maybe just say, hey, like you're working your whole life to like gather this gold or something. I don't know about that, but it just makes me think it doesn't get promoted like this, but leprechauns must love sunshine, but not sunlight and rain combined or mist or whatever. Double rainbow, double the gold. Maybe that's what that person was. Sometimes when people meet me in person, and this is a pretty dated reference. I mean, not as dated as all the other references, but there's the double rainbow guy. And sometimes people say, I thought you were going to be like the double rainbow guy. And I say, I don't even know if did he even show up on camera? I thought he was just saying double rainbow and groaning and with joy. Okay, so the leprechaun thing is just a tangent because I don't think it's related to any of this. But so when I was a child, We were strong. I mean, of the education I remember and not doing good at, clouds and colors and prisms and Roy G. Biv. Now, I think for the teacher, probably the prism part was pretty sweet because you have a visual aid. It's somewhat interesting. It's also pretty magical. So the presentation of that part might not have been that bad. Maybe they had like a movie about it. I don't know. I'd love if we were watching a movie. It was like, okay, maybe I may get through today. But then it came down to how do you oh boy, is this going to be future when you're Generation X, when you're the adults in the room, you're going to really need this stuff. And it turns out for sleep podcasts, Roy G. Biv comes up a lot. But they said, you not only do you need to know that these are colors, but you need to know like what order they occur in. And there's this is it a mnemonic device? That just popped in my head too. To remember it. There's also one about, that's an English one, but it's just maybe that's a mnemonic device. I don't know. But this one stuck, unlike the clouds. I don't know if there was like all clouds are in the sky and eat sunshine or something. That's like remembering the notes in piano lessons. No good boys practice piano all the time or whatever it was. And I said, I'll never remember that because I can't remember. I can remember to practice. Okay, but back to this Roy G. Biv thing. It was easy to learn, but we had tests about it and stuff or whatever. We had homework. Roy G. Biv stands for red, orange, yellow. It was also on television shows too, like probably Contact is a reason, probably on the electric company. But red, orange, yellow, Roy, G, green, Biv, blue, indigo, violet. Now, I'm sure that's where most of the questions came because like that Biv part probably threw most people off because you'd say, where's the difference? I guess even now as an adult or as a person that invented something called the Roy G. Biv Institute, we do have to kind of skip over and then just do blue and purple. But also you'd say, I'm sure red, orange, and yellow say, what up with that? Like, what's up, man? Or even green. The green is, in a tough spot, not only just in the middle, in the middle child of colors, of the color spectrum, but green doesn't even though green and red, they're holiday colors, green goes with the other stuff. I don't know. It doesn't blend as like there's some nice blends. Biv is a nice blend, and then Roy makes a nice blend of colors. So that was my education. This is what led me to make a sleep podcast. But I wasn't the only one learning this stuff. And a lot of people say, oh, it's Isaac Newton or whatever. But I recently heard this tale never told about a boy named Teddy, a young boy named Teddy, and his relationship with the Roy G. Biv spectrum. And Teddy was, once upon a time, Teddy was like he was a young lad, just at the age where they decide you're not quite ready for the birds and the bees, but you're ready for the Biv and the R to the G, you're ready for the color spectrum. And another thing I should note is that I don't think they do this. I don't think this is a gift anymore, but they used to, it used to be a popular gift to give kids chemistry sets. Now, this was a different time when there was more space and I don't know, but you would give a kid in Radio Shack. It was a big place to buy gifts. Not that you would only get a chemistry set at it, but I mean, nowadays I'm like, if someone gave my daughter a chemistry set between the ages of 2 and 13 or 14, I'd have been like, what are you doing? Like, what are you giving her a chemistry? Okay, could you tell me about that ahead of time next time? Because I don't even know, you could give a kid a chemistry set. oh, it's the happiest, joyous days of my life. Like, didn't you have, oh yeah, I got multiple chemistry sets. I was always trying to find ways to, but I mean, I wasn't one who followed the instructions, but I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, chemistry set, like, what are you doing? Now, luckily, Teddy was raised by not me, because Teddy had gotten a chemistry set, and he was one of the people that not just followed the instructions, but talked to his science teacher. And his science teacher told him about the magic of chemicals that would come in a child's chemistry set. And he helped Teddy unlock the power of chemistry. First, of course, well, we'll get to some of the things. Now, another thing that was mind-blowing, probably around the time, maybe before, like they would teach about complementary colors, primary colors. And I would say this was almost the first time you discover it was almost more magic than the prism. The prism was one kind of magic, but you only observe, like a magic you observed, right? But you didn't participate in. And I think this is probably transgenerational, but then you would learn about the idea. I mean, think about the first time. Now, first time most, at least in the U.S., I'd love to hear from people around the world that you have experience using colors to create art would normally be like via crayons. Now I'd say predominantly crayons in the last 30 years, but it could have been colored pencils or markers. And there's a limitation with those, at least that I know of, like where crayons are like wax, dyed wax maybe. I think so. Markers are like ink in a tube attached to some felt tip marker. And pencils are colored pencils, not maybe, I don't know if they use graphite in those. But your first experiences, I think nowadays, and I think this is probably normal, my daughter's first experience was probably at a restaurant with crayons, then crayons at home. And you say, yeah, give this kid 3 crayons, and then that'll compete with the tablet. But the limitation of those, at least in my experience, again, so you could get deluxe sets of crayons with a lot of colors, but you couldn't mix colors. Like I think a crayon, if you went over one color with another one, maybe you could kind of create another color. But when you got to school, in the day you like would be able to mix, particularly some sort of acrylic or latex paint, or watercolor, a little bit less flashy. No offense to watercolors. They look great. Watercolors, love looking at. I mean, all these things I'm best as an observer. But like when you first saw, I mean, I can't tell you how mind-blowing it was even now, I guess as an adult, that you could take red and blue and make purple. Seeing that especially if it was done in a delicate way, because every time they'd say, if you mix everything, it's just going to turn black or brown. And I'd say, well, I was trying to get, and they say, yeah, just follow what we're telling you. But that's why I make a sleep podcast. And then you could make green with, I don't know, yellow and blue maybe, and, orange, red and yellow, and purple. Oh, yeah, but purple would be, I guess, different shades of red and blue. And I don't know, that's pretty magical. Like, it's just seeing colors change and be like, wow, like, can't deconstruct colors, at least within this example. There probably is a way. I don't know. Is there a way? Maybe that was what Cher was singing about? If I could turn back time and I could find a way, like I'd bring the primary colors back to you. I think that's what she was singing about. Okay, that's all to set up this Teddy, right? So Teddy, he was a dreamer, an organic chemistry dreamer and inorganic chemistry maybe. But his teacher knew how to focus him. He said, you know what's going to be really cool? Like, sure, you can make invisible ink. I don't know. Maybe that's just lemon and something else. Or you can make fizzy stuff. But he told him you could make paint and colors out of these chemicals. And he showed Teddy how to make the colors. And there's a couple things that Teddy learned, right? He was actually making dye and not like paint, like kind of like similar. And then he discovered food coloring at home. And then he started to also like be like, okay, like I'm only using these particular chemicals. That's exciting to me. Like all of a sudden he's making all these chemicals. Now, this is a strange story. But in a sleep podcast, we don't omit needless words, right? So we don't omit needless words. So I'll put in all the words. So what Teddy started to do, because he was younger, right, and he was a bit of a dreamer. He thought that he really had unlocked practical magic. And the fact that this magic was practical was kind of mind-blowing, right? That he could do something with something that looked like one thing and create something else. And he didn't have, so then he said, well, why, if this magic must be transferable, right? Because he like kids this particular age, they watch a lot. We're like raised by television and commercials. So we have Teddy, our hero, and he believes in the magic of chemistry. So Teddy was interested in taking this magic that he had learned from the chemistry of colors. Holy cow, talk about... No wonder I forgot that I took a class in college called the chemistry of art. So maybe some of this magic is latent in my mind. But Teddy was already beyond my collegiate level at the chemistry of art. Yeah, because he was using creating dyes, real dyes, and then he started to learn more from his chemistry professor about these dyes and even mixing stuff and food coloring to make darker and darker dyes. But he wanted to use this magic in a personal way, not to personalize it, because that word is considered pretentious sometimes, you know. You want to make it good and keep it clean, personal. He wanted to make personal use of this magic. And so he's like, man, what is the first way, I should try? But, and they said, isn't that he came to one of his siblings and said, do you know what the infinitive is? Because it's try, take the infinitive. And try and has one through, that's kind of is that become an idiom or not? Is it relaxed and acceptable? And they said, well, what are you going to try? And he said, I'm going to try to change. And I said, well, great. Yeah, it's part of the part. You're not quite at that age. I mean, you're changing a little bit, but it'll be quite a few more years till you change in the way you might be thinking. But little did they know that he had something totally different in mind. Now, his imagination was a lot bigger than kids' imaginations can be limitless, right? And this is also in the 80s and 90s. There was less mirrors, at least that I was aware of. So Teddy he had a mirror in his bathroom, but the mirror was also he was maybe 3.5, 4 feet. So the mirrors it wasn't like the kids back then were doing a lot of looking in mirrors. And then what happened was somebody else said, like you and your chemistry, whatever. You know, there was the point where his chemistry, his attachment to it, where he got a little hopeless. He was told this was pointless. Can't you do your homework? What kind of kid, you know, what do you think you're going to grow up? This is not, your future is not in chemistry sets. It's in writing out Roy G. Biv. You're supposed to write it out in cursive 55 times. And you got to get your cursive right, your chemistry. You're supposed to be studying cursive writing and spelling. I don't care what I don't have a desire to know what chromium is. I have a desire to see you write Roy G. Biv in cursive. If you want to graduate, whatever, the third grade or the sixth grade, you got to do what you're told. And apparently you're not. So poor Teddy went into his garage, and he was a little down. But, you know, when kids are down and they have big imaginations, they get distracted in an easy way. And he started looking at the wall of his garage. When you pull into the garage, there's like shelves where all the old C to the R to the A to the P, like for seasonal stuff, was put in boxes in the garage. And you'd have to climb up the shelves, but they were sturdy shelves, and look through the boxes that way. And he started going through the boxes, just kind of, you know, passing his time, like on a little adventure. And it was just another set of synchronicity that he happened to open a box full of old Halloween costumes. And this isn't a Halloween tale, but, you know, Halloween is always on the mind of youth. And Halloween, there's never a bad time when you're a little kid. I don't know, ages like whatever, little to sixth grade, to find Halloween costumes, especially if you need to be distracted from homework. And so he found, and it's interesting because we've covered this and we've run as a repeat, Ben Cooper Halloween costumes in particular. And this one was still in the box. And if old Teddy had kept this thing, I'm sure it would be worth its weight in plastic and vinyl. But this was back before Marvel and all, you know, not before Marvel, but before Marvel movies and all that stuff. And I believe this costume was someone that was a rival of the man of the webs, the great web surfer, Peter Parker. He goes, by day, Peter Parker, by night, the surfer of webs. I'm pretty sure it was his rival, though it could have been Captain America. Maybe it was. Maybe it was both of their rivals. This is back in the 80s and the 90s. And this person was like, he was particularly, he was in one of the movies in a different way. His costume was red, and his name was Cherry, old Cherry Rival. Cherry Rival was his name, and Cherry Rival was a costume that one of his older brothers had worn. And he started to think about how Cherry Rival looked, and he ran his fingers and hands over the mask. And the vinyl costume really didn't add much. It was just a picture, like, but he said, wow, there's something about the texture of the mask and the color. And he thought about Cherry. He goes, this Cherry Red would never take cursive. So he came up with a plan, right? He would become Cherry Red for school the next day, the big turning in the cursive Roy G. Biv. And so, like, right when it's time to do, right when it's cursive time, you know, when the clock struck 10:24, time to switch to cursive, he asked to use the restroom at 10:24. It probably switched at 10:25. And he returned to the classroom, and he was red, cherry, not quite cherry red, more of like a maroonish red. And it didn't take, I mean, this one was like, some of the children laughed. The teacher was stunned, and she said, okay, better call your parents. And the parents said, well, what happened? He said, well, I became cherry red because I don't know if we really need, like, we spent a lot of time on cursive and Roy G. Biv. And they said, well, now you got to write in cursive. I'm not cherry red. Like, so that day passed. And it took a while, and he returned wasn't cherry red much longer. And, but he still was, like, thinking about this Roy G. Biv, too. And he said, okay, well, cherry red didn't work. How am I going to, really, like, he said, and he was looking at his colors, and luckily he had, like, they'd taken his chemistry set away. They said, until you get this love of organic chemistry and colors out of your mind, we're not, no more chemistry set for you. But they didn't realize, like, he'd already unlocked the ingredients, so he didn't actually need the chemistry set, because the colors, a lot of the ingredients were easy to obtain. Well, it's not like the colors made for unobtainium. So then he made a couple more attempts. One was like, which happened first? Well, the first one was like a reaction. A typical kid reaction was like, okay, I'm going to find a new, like I'm going to go live with my grandparents. And while his grandparents weren't named Murphy, they did have, there was a lot of red hair in his family. Now, you would classify, most people would classify as orange hair, not red, especially Teddy would. So that's interesting. They have orange hair, technically. And so then he took his hair and he dyed it orange. And they said, what are you doing? And he, because he also got his forehead and his ears and his chin orange. And he said, well, I wanted to be I prove that I'm a real Murphy. I'm a Murphy. And they said, but you're not a Murphy. Your hair's not red. That's you haven't got to that. That was another essential part. I was like, learning like why people, what the percentage of people's hair turns red. And he said, no. And they said, okay. Now, as far as kids go, Teddy was pretty conscientious. He knew, like, he would, it's not like he turned everything else red. Sometimes, the collars of his shirt, but he was pretty good at, like, applying dye to himself. I don't know how, and I thinking about it, I say, this kid, like, they couldn't see this at the time, but yeah, he did. And so he turned his hair orange. Then he thought about the color orange in more of a, now he happened to live in Syracuse, New York. That's how I know this tale untold. And it's particularly in the 80s and the 90s, Syracuse University basketball was particularly a strong importance in young people's lives. And there was a character who would go to the Syracuse University sporting events called the Dome Ranger. Now, if memory serves me, which it doesn't usually serve me very well, the Dome Ranger was probably just a fan, though it could have been a paid character. I don't know. He was someone that kind of reminded me personally of like someone from the Federation of like what's the guy? Not Jesse, not Hulk, but but it's one of those guys that wears tights and dances off with people. The Worldwide Dancing Federation. And he wasn't really allowed to watch that stuff either. But so whatever, he idolized this Dome Ranger. And Syracuse also had an orange, which was but so Teddy looked at the orange and then he thought, man, if I'm orange, I'll like turn myself into the Dome Ranger, like the official orange of the Syracuse University. And he turned himself orange. And that one, he did a full body orange. And they said the Dome Ranger is not orange. Okay, like if you had, like at this point, his family's like, if you want to go to school orange, you could go to school orange. And he went to school and he introduced himself as the Dome Ranger, or the Dome. Then they started saying he was the Dome Ranger Junior. Now, you got to think about this in some sense. Like, at some point, like all 10, he didn't have the nuance to know that he started to like this attention, I think. And maybe it had magical properties. It made him different. It showed that, I don't know, maybe you don't always want to get such great attention like that, but at some point he kind of was like, man, this feels good. This feels like magic too. And in his mind, it's interesting that he never became like an actor because he was like the Dome Ranger. He was orange and he felt like the Dome Ranger. And then it was almost like an adaptive way to deal with uncertainty. And not necessarily recommended anywhere on planet Earth, but it worked for him. And it was interesting because, like, right after that Dome Ranger, the Dome Ranger moment, as it was known in his family, his grades started to, like, go from, like, B's and C's or IC, they would do NI, needs improvement back then. Or, he'd get NIs or satisfactories. They gave grades for cursive writing. Believe it or not, they did. NI, needs improvement, or maybe even a U sometimes, unsatisfactory. Then there was satisfactory, maybe even good and excellent. So he started to suddenly go from, needs improvement to satisfactory to good. And, his colors would wear off. So that was it for the orange. Now with yellow, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So like with yellow, he started, this is again a seasonal thing. This just happened to be at winter when he was like, well, like, I guess I could try. Like, he also knew that yellow, like, didn't quite work. He was starting to dream bigger than just, one thing. And he thought about how he changed his hair color, how he changed his body color. And he happened to watch a holiday special. And I don't know which one it was. I think it was like when Santa and Rudolph team up or something. Santa and Rudolph team up to save the world or something like that. And there's these characters called this character called the Heat Miser, right? And he has a twin brother, but the Heat Miser was very colorful in orange, red, and yellow. And also the like gradations of those colors together. So Teddy decided he would become the Heat Miser. And it was a particularly like popular special at the time, and it even had a song. And actually, by the time he changed himself, which was like in the season after Thanksgiving, but before Christmas break, he was so good at it. And he had actually developed his own like costume and stuff that they were like, yeah, you could go ahead, like you could be in the school holiday special. Like you'll do a number as the Heat Miser. And it was very well received because it was hilarious. And they said, man, that kid looks like the Heat Miser. And, it was until like February or whatever that he took him to like whatever. Like, I don't even know what happens when you change your, it took a while for him to turn back normal. Well, he actually never did because then, now over the holidays, what happened was he had a sister that was slightly older than him, but still a child, and then a younger brother. And this also happened to be during the time of the Smurfs. Wait a second. We forgot about G, though. I guess I skipped over G, huh? Roy G. Biv. Okay, so G, I think, was like that one was kind of easy now that I'm thinking about it. But I guess the reason I skipped over it is because, my own storytelling and stuff. So there was a holiday, and this is a real holiday in Syracuse, halfway to St. Patrick's Day, I think it's called, which I have no idea when that was. So I guess I'm getting I was setting the seeds for the blue, but the green was like halfway to St. Patrick's Day. But I guess it makes more sense because it was after the holidays. So halfway to St. Patrick's Day, it's got to be during the summer, right? Half of 3 plus 6 is 9. So yeah, must have been St. Patrick's Day. So it's St. Patrick's Day and halfway to St. Patrick's Day. There's this is a big deal in Syracuse, and there's a tanker truck. I don't ever knew if the beer is actually in the tanker truck, even though I've worked at this event as an employee. It definitely worked at halfway to St. Patrick's Day and St. Patrick's Day. And so they have green beer. And I know in Chicago they changed the river to green and stuff like that. And they serve green beer. And it looks like it comes in a tanker truck. Maybe it even does. And they call it, I think they even call it Green Beer Day, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's just something else. So that one I just kind of forgot about because he said, I'm going to be green beer. And they said, well, and then that was frustrating for him because they said, oh, look at the leprechaun. He goes, no, I'm green beer. And then he was like, I'm the boy and then they loved that. What do you mean you can't be green beer? You're a kid. And they said, I'm the boy that swam in the green beer. And so everybody got a good laugh out of that one. And, but the one that was interesting, the two that are interesting to me are the last two, I guess, because the one was so the seed was planted over the holidays. So I guess this must have been in April, May, June. I guess the spring, post swimming in green beer, a boy's known to, his head knows to go to certain clouds. And this particular boy, Teddy, he was in love with Smurfette. So Smurfette, so there's a animated show called The Smurfs. I believe it's still relevant. There's been movies, but there's also Smurf toys. His sister and one of his brothers played with a lot of Smurfs. Also, people would collect the Smurfs. They weren't action figures. They were static figures. And he loved Smurfette. He did. Smurfette was she was the apple of his eye. And so this one's kind of obvious. Surprising, no one saw it coming, but he decided he would become a Smurf. So first he's designed. Now, I think the Smurfs, most of them, trying to think if they just wear pants and their shoes are built into their pants. I don't know if they wear shirts. And then they have a hat that kind of looks like a mushroom, and they're blue. They're blue, and they deal with Azrael and Gargamel. So he turned blue, and again, he was very it's tough to know where. They said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to marry Smurfette. I'm going to become a Smurf." And they said, "But you're a human." Can't you tell the size difference between Gargamel and Smurfette? And he said, we'll find a way to make it work. That's why I'm blue, so she knows to trust me. And then they said, but it's an animated car. But they said, this is the kid, they became the heat miser, so I don't think he's going to know. He was a dreamer, and eventually found out that, as much as you may love Smurfette, she's something, to strive for, a destination you'll never get to. But he was down. And then he said, I knew, when he was down, and this comes back to, again, these are just things that, when you think about Generation X, he started to, in his latent mind, this isn't his conscious mind working this out. If it was there's some sort of wisdom to this based on the value system he was taught by television and commercials. Loving Smurfette, you say, okay, I get it. No one, it's different as it was in the time it fit. So then he must have thought, and again, so I guess some of this is, I'm the tellteller, like deep down after the Smurfette thing, he was down, like, he was comfortable at school, but not like, people knew that he was in love with Smurfette, and like, so then his kind of popularity took a hit. And, his grades went down a little bit. It was the end of the semester anyway. But he needed some, he wanted to be in the arms of someone like a loving mentor, like that would hold him. And as much as people like me tend to resist that kind of idea, like it also holds some sway, right? Just be held in the loving arms of somebody soft and caring, somebody without judgment, somebody that's like always smiling, always seems full of joy and cheery, and not just to be like cared for by them once, but like to be a part of that family. And he had written this whole alternative thing to Grimace, who was, and I want to say Grimace made a comeback this year, like at the Mets games, maybe that's somebody else. But Grimace is just as like, I don't know a lot about Grimace. Grimace is purple, so we got our purple coming up here. And Grimace is like, was a sidekick of Ronald McDonald's, or like a friend. It's tough to say. Grimace is a non-human being. Not sure Grimace's backstory at all, other than that Grimace hung out with Ronald McDonald. He's very happy, shaped like a pear, but purple, looked fuzzy and huggable. 2 arms, 2 legs, mouth, always smiling, probably missing some stuff, but that's Grimace. Interesting name. I mean, I may be mixing them up, but he decided he wanted to be Grimace's son. And I think he had watched enough movies that never quite made it, like that this was something that was achievable. Like maybe there was other movies like this in the 80s and the 90s. But that he would be Grimace's son. And so he turned himself purple. Now, this did not work out as well because he started going to McDonald's. And at this time, McDonald's usually had like a playland, especially in winter cities. They would have decent quality playgrounds in the inside or sometimes the outside. But even like on the inside, they have a small play structure. And they seem to like pretty well maintained. I mean, it might just be like, this might be a myth. But he would go there and ask for Grimace, and they'd say, like, Grimace is not here, or like, are you purple, kid? Say, I'm Grimace's son. And he made himself a Grimace out of like a kind of a paper mache Grimace body. But he was, like, even somebody's like, are you purple under that outfit, man? You wish here with somebody? Is this your birthday party? So he searched a lot of local McDonald's that he could get to, which were only a few, to be Grimace's son. And it didn't work out either. But it was a fateful day because I guess, this was the spring or the summer. And after his third McDonald's, where he realized Grimace isn't real, even though he kind of knew that already, he was walking back home, and his outfit was falling apart in the summer heat. But he happened upon this early summer, late spring field covered in flowers. And he stood at the flowers, and something guided him to just lay down in these flowers and rest. And he realized, he started to just notice, all the different flowers. Like, first he noticed the indigo flowers and the violet flowers, which are actual violets. And he said, these must be violets. And And there was something that shifted in him as he started to see all of these colors he had experienced all around him. Wildflowers, official flowers with names like violets. Maybe there's daffodils. I don't even know. And laying with these flowers, he started to reconnect this organic chemistry to this organic thing that he just stared at these violets because he'd gone through this journey, right? And he'd never luckily he didn't change himself. I mean, Grimace is purple. Somewhere on that spectrum of the Biv. And he was just soaking in these violets, absolutely amazed. And that's when he knew that he didn't have to change himself into these colors. Like he could just go out in the world. And after they started to notice color everywhere, and not just the Roy G. Biv colors, like a huge spectrum of colors, but also something else, like he decided to form an institute, this imaginary institute called the Roy G. Biv Institute. And he said, one day, within the mind of a podcaster, I'm going to start an institute that certifies holiday lights or regular lights that follow the Roy G. Biv protocol. And light companies will pay us money to be Roy G. Biv certified. And the light company said, just by putting our lights in order, those ones don't sell as good as, we have our own, we've done studies. But he had a dream to form the Roy G. Biv Institute. And that is, when you hear me refer to it, it's because of the journey of this lad named Teddy that we have the Roy G. Biv Institute today within my mind. So I hope you could rest in this field of flowers as well, and get comfortable, and start to drift off. Good night. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. Before we get to the rest of the podcast here, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have a favorite episode of the show? A favorite character, a favorite style of the show? Can you name characters in the show? It's not important if you can't. That's another sign you might be a super listener of the podcast. You're a super listener. That's pretty cool because you're in an exclusive group out of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. There's only about 20,000 super listeners. And the thing is, over the next few months, we need 1,500. We need you and about 1,500 super listeners to support the show back so we can keep making this podcast and be here. Because this is a time when more than ever, more and more people need the show. Paradoxically, that's when it gets most difficult to keep the show going. The show, it's you got to choose or think about, do you want your sleep podcast to just get by? Is that the goal of Sleep With Me? My goal is not for you to just get by, for your life to be tolerable. My job's to bring you comfort so your life can be better tomorrow, that you can be out there flourishing. But even if it's more manageable, think about if you had the same thing for your sleep podcast, if you're a super listener. But you could be the reason the show's here next year, the year after that, the year after that. We can head into this unknown together, right? Supporting other people that are super listeners like you and those other people going through stuff. And we could keep making whatever brought you here, whatever puts a smile on your face or helps you drift off. And you could do that, but don't wait. Because if you're hearing me and listening, you're the one person I'm talking to. I've been doing this long enough that it's really I have to get one person at a time. So you're the one person right now. I need you. Can you do it? Just sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus.